Clarence Thomas was nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court by George W. Bush in July of 1991.
I remember her being extremely well-spoken. She seemed very calm and reasonable. She said she really didn't want to come forward, but I think she was subpoenaed to testify, and when she was, she felt an obligation to tell the truth. She seemed very credible to me, and very smart and dignified.
I don't think either side cared about her. I think she was a tool for the Democrats to try to derail this nomination, and I think the Republicans treated her with great disrespect, as if she were a liar, when I didn't think she had any particular reason to lie. But it was all, I thought, a very fancy theatrical production, when the real issue was the Democrats did not want this, what they thought was a totally ill-equipped young person to be a conservative Republican judge for the next 40 years, and the Republicans thought it was a great chance to put on a conservative for many, many years to come.
Did you feel that he was qualified to be a justice?
Well, from what I was hearing, he didn't. I don't think he ever served as a judge. I don't know that he worked like in the courts. He worked obviously applying federal law, but it seemed to me that the comments from a lot of the political commentators were there were many people who were much more qualified, who had a much longer record, so we would know what they were likely to rule or what type of judicial temperament they'd have, and everything that we had heard about Thomas was that he was extremely conservative. So that was another thing that struck me, that they, found this guy who again just seemed like a character. He didn't have a record as a judge, so we didn't know what his temperament as a judge would be. But he was supposed to be very conservative, and he was African American. So it was, I didn't know that there were African American Republicans. And I think part of it was too, it's like, wow, we found this ideal guy. He's an unknown quantity, and but what we do know is that he's conservative and he's really young, and we can have him there for 50 years maybe. So as a liberal Democrat, that scared me, and it also seemed like, where do they find this guy?
What were you doing as a profession or in your personal life during the time of the hearings?
Well, as a profession, I was in law school. It's my second year of law school. In my personal life, I was a newly married woman to Robert Brisk, and we were driving down to Washington, D.C. So it was actually, I remember being so riveting listening to these hearings. We did not want to turn them off for a minute. It was better than a movie, better than a soap opera. You just couldn't believe the twists and turns, and we were completely captivated.
As you said before, you said you were in law school, and did this make you second guess your choice of profession at all?
No, not my profession to be an attorney, but I think it made me a little more cynical about the U.S. government. That it really felt like the Republicans wanted a conservative justice, the Democrats didn't. And I really think both sides were, again, rather than focusing on qualifications and the merits, they wanted to discredit Thomas, that they were liberal and discredit Anita Hill if they were conservative, rather than, shouldn't we be seeking the best person for this job? Such an important position.
Did it concern you at all becoming a woman in the workplace when such accusations that seem to be founded on, or at least backed by other people, could just be brushed off?
Yeah, actually, that's an excellent question, and I did feel that at the time because I was just starting. I was in law school and I was going to start my career as an attorney soon after that, and it kind of shocked me that in 1991, after so much progress has been made, it was still, again, these white, middle-aged, entitled senators kind of just poo-pooing this, or, oh, this crazy woman is making these allegations. It's like, how can that be in this day and age that this woman could not be taken seriously? And I think there still was a lot of bias in the workplace and sex discrimination. And yeah, thinking back on it, I was shocked and concerned too that this was at the highest levels of government in our court, that this could just be brushed off, as you said, rather than taken seriously.
Would you say it lowered your view or disappointed you in the U.S. government?
Yes, I became even more cynical that it seemed like this whole process didn't work. It was so politicized that it wasn't, again, trying to find the best person. It was whoever was in power, the person that they wanted. So in this case, a conservative Republican who was very young at the time. That was another thing that was so shocking, how young he was, because that meant he could potentially serve for decades and decades. And, again, only 9 justices. Each one is so important. So I was personally disappointed.
A Ben Brisk production.